Hey, I'm Dani.
And I'm Adam.
And this is the Play Your Best podcast.
We're a husband and wife team, faith-filled parents, wellness coaches, and the founders of DNA Fitness and the Live Long Collective.
And this show is all about helping you live long and live well and becoming the best, healthiest version of yourself, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Each week, we'll break down real-life strategies to build lasting health, stronger habits, deeper relationships, and a faith-filled mindset that equips you to show up fully in every area of your life.
So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just tired of starting over, welcome. You're in the right place.
Let's help you play your best. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Play Your Best podcast. I'm your host, Adam Robbins, and I'm here with my wife,
Dani Robbins.
And we got another amazing episode for you today. We are going to dial in on nutrition, on diet, on fueling for workouts, and really just how to get long-term success in this whole thing of exercise. So, with that being said, let's jump right in to our first topic.
Yeah, so when you think about getting into fitness or getting healthy, oftentimes it feels overwhelming or it feels like it's just supposed to happen. And so we want to leave you with very specific things that you can take and implement, and you should start to see a lot of movement forward. Obviously, always coaching is going to help you dial that in even like closer, right? But first thing we want to talk about is the ability to
eat. Yeah. So with that being said, like diets, a lot of people talk about diets. I think the first thing that people want are like, tell me what to eat. Give me a diet. Yeah. Should I be doing the keto diet? I heard about this carnivore diet. Yeah. Is that good for you? Or what about the Atkins diet or the Mediterranean diet? And it's like, all of these different diets, and I like to tell people that we need to get that word out of our vocabulary, because a diet really is focused on restriction more so than it is anything else. And I think when our brains kind of connect with that word, it thinks about like what we're not going to be able to have. It's a negative attachment to that, right? And that starts the struggle from the beginning for the client in how to how to go about doing this thing for long term, right? When I think about a diet, I think about, okay, when is this going to end?
Yeah.
And we don't want to think that way.
Yeah.
Right? There's no end game in view here.
Yeah.
We're creating something long term. We're creating a lifestyle, and we're creating something that we should be doing in our 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm. And to get us there, right? But oftentimes you're thinking like you hate whatever it is that you're doing, and it's like, how fast can you get out? And it's like, if that's the case, then how are you going to keep that result that you hated for those 90 days or 6 months? And then you're going to fall off of that, right? Because you hate it so much and you haven't really built what is the fundamental piece, is the habit. And so if we don't have these core habits and work on the mindset piece, which we talked about in the other episode that we did, then it's all going to just fall apart, and you're going to go back to the things that you were dieting from.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Also, when we start to think about dieting, it creates a barrier between your life and then what you need to do.
Yeah.
Because for most people to come, at least into our gym, they have families, they have husbands, they have kids, they have events. They have a life that they want to continue living to some extent. And when we say diet, we start wrapping ourselves around that restriction where everybody else can have these good things
Yeah, it's just
and we can't have them. And now I have to create this whole way of being away from everybody else that I'm so close to.
yeah, and I think it's really comes to like the society and a lot of the selling, right? Is they sell you these quick fixes, they sell you this lifestyle, all these things, and so you're constantly kind of chasing that, and that's where all this lingo comes from. That's where all these fads come from. Like even just in fitness alone, like you constantly see the different fads that come into play with actual fitness, and it goes back to just the fundamentals and like seeing where you are, what's not working, what's keeping you at this place where you're not at your goal, right? And we talked about that last time and really focusing in on what it is you do want instead of what you were just talking about of what you don't want. Like you don't want to be, and so when you like laser focus on that, it's not gonna inspire you.
Yeah.
It's not gonna keep you for the long game. So yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about the diet. So when we're talking about when we're talking to clients about their nutrition, we talk about lifestyle, right? And we want to understand what people are doing now so that we can coach them into becoming the person that they want to be. Does that mean that they need to remove things out of the way that they eat?
Well, yes and no, right? It's knowing like how fast you want to get to the goal, right? It's knowing maybe you gotta take something out, but can you replace it with something that you hadn't tried, or maybe you like more, right? So sometimes, like if you're just eating sugar all day, like processed sugar or like fast food all day long, then there's probably a chance that you have to change a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I think it really depends on where you want to go, what's your long term goal, and what are you currently doing.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier when we disattach ourselves, like we talked about from the story, right? It's like, oh, I hate vegetables. Like when I started, right, one long, long time ago, it's like I wasn't used to eating vegetables. But when I process myself of, it takes like a while to reprogram everything and your taste buds and what you're addicted to and all these things. And now I love vegetables.
Yeah.
But back then it was like it was challenging and it was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I'm speaking with clients, usually there is a sense that they have to eliminate things. You got to ask yourself the question first, right? Starting where you are. If your goal is to improve energy levels, lose body fat, drop 20 pounds, if it's somewhere around there, then you got to be honest and say what I'm doing now is not working to get me where I want to go. And the that old saying that if you keep doing the same thing expecting a different result, that's insanity, right? So therefore you must do something different. And different means that you need to take an account of what you're doing now to say this is good or this is not working. This is something that doesn't align with what I want. And then ask yourself, are you willing to let go of that thing in order to get this thing? There's always an exchange. So do you have to stop doing things? Yes. At what rate? That's a whole different story. Now, I've had clients that come in and you can give them the whole plan and structure and they take it. This is like 1% of the population out there and they do it to the T. Most people aren't like that.
Well, do it to the T and stay doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like forever.
Not for 3 weeks and then jumping off a cliff.
Or even a few months. because it goes deeper than that, right? It goes to this attachment to that food, that emotion that they get from that food. And so it goes deeper. And if we can just really just start with one small habit, and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this consistently and see how it feels. And as long as it's right, you always used to talk about the, probably butcher it, but the better, best option, right? It was
Good,
always
better,
three.
best.
Good, better, best, right? And if you look at things like that and say, okay, I'm going to start with my breakfast. What can I do that's better? This might be good, but what can I do that's better just in this meal? And then master that. And then you go to the next one, right? Maybe it's going to sleep a little earlier, and maybe it's not in nutrition specifically, but wow, it will make a huge difference if you turn your screen off 30 minutes early before bed. Will that drastically impact your health, your results? So it's not like everything at once often, like you're saying.
Yep.
It's just, what's one thing better that I can do? And if you do 3 things better, you see really big results in 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
Yeah, yeah. One of the coaches that I had, he used to teach this same kind of principle. It's like good, better, best, but I like it a little bit more. It's start, stop, continue, right? What's one thing that you need to start doing that'll lead you toward that goal? Let's take, for instance, 20 pounds. You want to lose 20 pounds. The first question that you need to ask yourself is, what's one thing you need to start doing? Maybe that's exercise. Maybe that's walking. Maybe that's sleeping better, right? Maybe that's dialing in on your nutrition. But what's one thing that you need to start doing? Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's people need to start eating more calories. Mm-hmm. Especially you women out there, and I'm not judging anybody, but a lot of times I have women, they come in, they get on our in-body scan, and skeletal muscle mass is like radically low. Body fat is really, really high, but their body weight is like 130 pounds. So it doesn't really make sense. The only thing that I can correlate that to is long-term nutrient deficiency, because that's the only way that you lose skeletal muscle mass like that, unless you're 90 years old and you haven't worked out in 30 years. But so what's the thing that you need to start doing? What's the thing that you need to stop doing? And what's the thing that you're already doing that you need to continue and maybe even dial in a little bit more, right? And that's a great way to kind of start really focusing on what the things are and not overwhelming yourself, right? Because that's like, you're already doing one of the things, so just turning the dial up on that. And then you eliminate something that's not working well for you. So that's one thing, super easy, right? And then add one thing in that's going to help you. And that little shift, if you did that once every 3 months, you'd be a different person at the end of the year. Playing on this nutrition piece, right? So let's say we get dialed in and we start working out and we're trying to lose some weight, we're trying to feel better. What's the next obstacle that we tend to see a lot of people kind of hit a wall, right? And that's they start working out, they're showing up to the gym 3-5 days a week, and they're doing all of these things, but yet they didn't dial in on the nutrition. They didn't increase the calorie intake to support the calorie expenditure, and 3-4 weeks goes by, they start hitting a wall, right? How can we talk about dialing in on that so that we're supporting the energy that we're putting out for our workouts?
Like specifically in nutrition?
Yeah.
Yeah, so making sure that we're getting enough protein is a really easy way, but it makes a huge difference in our energy. Energy, fullness, muscle mass, really everything. So if you think about, on average, right, 30 grams of protein per meal, it's a good place to start. And often women feel that it's very difficult. That's what we've experienced. It's very difficult to get that amount in. And we always say is that it's because your body's used to what you've been doing. So give yourself a grace period, and know that the transition will happen. But that's an easy one that feels difficult, but it's easy to implement and makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So, in playing on that, a lot of times, so this is what we tend to see: men overeat, women undereat. And when you tell women who are undereating that they should be eating close to a gram per pound of body weight in protein, that's typically around 125 to 150 grams of protein for a female, and that's like a pound and a half of meat, and they tend to freak out, and rightfully so, because the eating such little bit of food for such a long time, your stomach tends to shrink down. And so when you start to fill it up, you feel full. And there's a psychological factor to that. When you feel full, you think you're going to gain weight. And that's actually the opposite of what happens, right? You start to fuel your metabolism and your body functions the way it's supposed to, and your energy levels kind of skyrocket through the roof. The other side, the flip side of that coin, is for men, right, who tend to overeat and consume a lot of carbohydrate-rich foods. And what protein does for them is it helps them feel more satiated, right? They can eat the food, they have no problem filling up, but the protein kind of curbs those cravings of the carbs. So that's one aspect of fueling for your workouts, and to start improving energy levels throughout your day, so you don't feel like you're crashing after your workout. The we when we're coaching people, we want to understand how much energy someone's putting out throughout the day. So there's a simple equation that we get from the InBody scan that we do with our clients that tells us a basal metabolic rate, which is basically how many calories you burn while you're sitting down at rest. That's our starting point. So typically, if a female comes in, we put her on the InBody, she's 1,300 calories at a BMR, but she's eating like maybe 1,000 calories a day. She's in a deficit from her BMR. Anything that she does activity-wise is excess deficit. And so her whole day is being in a deficit. And that is just going to crush the energy levels. You're going to experience things like brain fog. You're going to want coffee or caffeine to keep you up half the day. And it's just really, really not a good, a good mixture to really get your goals and to have the energy and the lifestyle that you want to have. So the way we should be thinking about this is, how active am I on a day-to-day basis on average from a scale of 1 to 10, right? And then we can give those a number, a caloric number, right? Say if my activity level is a 10, and I picture that as like maybe some construction worker that's digging trenches all day long and sweating profusely, right? They're probably burning an extra 1,500, 2,000 calories a day on top of the BMR. So they need to consume a lot more. And on the flip side, if you're down by a 1 or a 3, like you're sedentary behind a desk all day long and you don't get up for 8 hours at a time, you're not burning as much calories. You maybe 200-300 extra calories on top of your BMR. And then, so we get this picture of total daily energy expenditure, and then we can use that number to then reflect, okay, what's the goal? To lose weight, to build muscle, to do this, to do that. Do I need to cut calories from the total energy, or do I need to meet that energy expenditure, or do I need to go above and beyond that if I'm really trying to build for some of them guys out there, right, that are like pumping iron in the gym for 2 hours a day? So those are important things to think about when you're really trying to dial in the nutrition. But oftentimes what we see is people undereat. And if you're getting the signals, tired, brain fog, recovery is slow, fatigue, muscle aches, things like that, not sleeping well, that could be a really, really good indicator that you're not eating enough calories.
Also, listening to you talk and under eating is a big thing, but when you feel like you're stuck or you can't lose weight, often just going back to the fundamentals, like you don't know how many calories. I was just working with someone, they really didn't have the background in like even calories and how much, or even the food groups and what the food groups mean, right? So if we go back to the basics, right? Your fat, your protein, your carbs, right? Your macronutrients, and understanding what that is. It's so funny. We go through our whole life, and sometimes we don't even know how to fuel our bodies or take care of them because we really don't take classes on it, and we just are
Yeah.
raised with whatever anybody's feeding us, and we don't really get to learn these things until we stop. And I think now a lot of people are educated through social media and all the platforms and just the internet, um, just tell chat, right? But it really comes down to looking at what you're consuming through a whole day, right?
Yeah.
Are they nutritious meals by like vegetables and protein and fat, and is it fueling you? So getting back to the nitty gritty of like the actual calories is super important. But even just like looking at your plate from back in the day, we used to go like palm of the hand protein, fat thumb, yeah, fat with your thumb, and then two fish or vegetables. So like you could go to there and see, well, am I consuming sugar all day? Because you'll see a drop drastically by just cutting back on um, drinks, right?
Yeah.
Like alcohol is a big one and what it does to the body, but sugary drinks, teas,
Orange juice.
juices, right? That's huge. And you don't even notice because you're drinking it, right? And it spikes your sugar. And a big one is soda. And then just looking at like processed food, processed food that has a lot of sugar in it. Um, and so if you can get full on really good food, then you'd be so surprised, the change that your body feels, one, but two, the results that you could get.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I always teach like it's not just about, well, for the population that we've worked with and for ourselves and longevity, it's not just about like what we look like, but how we're living. Because I remember the like bodybuilders, like they don't even brush their teeth sometimes because they want to hit those goals. But it's like, okay, is that healthy for us? Is that longevity thinking, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much. So you can get to a goal and hit numbers, but not be healthy. And so what we want is longevity. What we want is to have strong, healthy bodies. And to do that, I strongly believe that it goes back to like looking at your plate and not just hitting numbers, but like health, food into it. So.
Yeah, I think I think that's super important to to really analyze your nutrition that you're putting into your body. Calories matter, and even I think even more important. Well, I think I think they're both equally important, right? Calories matter, and quality matters. So, but there's I
It's a
don't.
journey. It's not like it's one or it's not. It's just a journey, right? And
Yeah, but I mean, if I tell you that you need to eat 2,000 calories a day, and you get that 2,000 calories through, a bunch of processed crap like, let's
pizza
say,
and ice
carrot
cream.
cake, right? Or yeah, pizza and ice cream, right? Then that's just not going to be a good end for you. But
Long term, right? Yeah.
long term, right? And so really identifying and going back to that, like what are the things that you need to stop doing, right? Stop eating processed garbage that your body can't break down. Your body can't use. It slows everything down. It makes you feel miserable. And it's just not real food. And we shouldn't be putting it in our bodies. Sugar is a poison, if you ask me, right? It's just like really, now what you get out of fruits and things like that, not so bad. But these refined sugars and high fructose corn syrup and the things that are just loaded with 60 grams of sugar in it is just deadly poison to our bodies, and it's killing us slowly. So we need to, and not only is it killing you slowly, but it's stealing your energy. Because when you have these big fluctuations and spikes in your insulin, up and down, then you're gonna hit those plateaus all day long. You're gonna be looking for the next thing to spike your insulin or spike your blood sugar to give you that high so that you can get through the next 3 hours. And you want to minimize the amount of times that you do that. So I think really what it all comes down to is understanding that in order to do these things that we're talking about, there has to be some kind of mindset shift into, like what you're saying in the beginning, like people get attached to their stories. We hear it all the time. We even have our own stories that we tend to hold on to, that we don't want to let go of so tenderly, because they've been good friends of ours for such a long period of time.
So I love the tool of just get curious. Like kind of I always do that. Like, take that outside perspective, step outside, and then just get really curious. Like, why? Why can't I let that go? Or why do I like that so much? Or what does that mean to me?
Yeah.
And just get really, really, really curious. And then say, what if I added more protein in the morning? I might not like that. Well, what'll happen if you don't, And so just kind of get curious, and it just opens up this space, because there is somebody that is going through a hard time or in that attachment and then makes a shift, right? We're not the only ones. Like I struggle, and I think that, how am I going to do this? And either you're in my life, or there's people, or I get really curious, and then I'm able to make that shift. And it has to be conscious choice, because if not, we'll just keep running the same race. So that's a little bit on nutrition. It goes deeper, and we can go very specific. So if you have specific questions that you would like to learn about, we would love to cover it. It's like a rabbit hole that never really ends. But we've just gotten to work with so many people over a really long time. And it mostly comes down to the habits.
Yeah.
And, it's majority a few things, right? It's a few things that you change. And then it's a journey from there. Because you pick up things things that you want to let go of, and then you need to start something. And I don't think we ever arrive. I think that's this constant journey. Like, I've been doing this for 12 years?
Yeah.
And like 12 years, and I've got a long way to go, and I'm always learning, and I'm always growing, and I'm always noticing something new about myself. So
yeah, I think what it comes down to, like what you're trying to say, is that it's a growth mindset, right? A growth mindset never stops trying to grow. And so you're always, and it's not like this pressure. It's just analyzing and saying, okay, I can do better here. And accepting where you are, and making small modifications over time to continue growing. It's when we think we can't do anything, or we don't have control over anything, or we have these identities that are wrapped around circumstances that we have no control over. Listen, when you have no control over something, nobody can help you, because it's out of your control. But the reality is that most of the things that you say are controlling the situation that are out of your control are not the things that are controlling your situation. It's your belief about that. So when you can identify those limiting belief systems that are holding you captive to the lack of results that you're getting in your fitness and nutrition and your health, then you can really start to make big changes, right? So Um,
What
I
about
mean,
fitness?
what about fitness?
Yeah, because fitness is a huge component, right? And that can go deep and wide forever. But just a little bit, like if somebody feels like they've hit a plateau and they're working on their nutrition, but this is pretty big, when especially if you're working out in your garage or you're going to the park on your own, or even sometimes just like walking. Like, what do you realize could kickstart someone to getting more results?
So that's a great question, and I'm gonna pull it down to one thing that comes to my mind right away, and I think this is the number one thing why people hit plateaus, they get stuck, is because they're not measuring. Well, you don't measure, you can't manage. So when you're not measuring something, you hit a plateau, you stop. I mean, people measure, but what they measure is they measure their physique or their body fat or their weight or those things, right? They're measuring those things. But then I asked them, what are you doing with your nutrition? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. I eat breakfast and I eat this. I say, okay, well, are you measuring anything? They're not measuring nothing. So they don't really know how many calories they're taking in. Then we talk to them about their exercise, right? If they're going to, I mean, if they're doing personal training, they get better results because the coach measures, right? The coach is measuring what goes on the bar. The coach is progressively overloading. The coach is bringing the intensity, right? But when you're in a group class where you're not the focus of the attention, and they're not tracking your weights or your intensities or things like that, and there's no systematic progressive overload that's taking you to a destination, then it's very difficult, right? And you can dial it back and not even notice on your own, right? You're still showing up, you're still getting a sweat on, but you're actually doing a little bit less than when you first started because maybe you didn't dial in your nutrition and your energy levels a little lower, so you can't push as hard and things like that. So you don't have all of these, how would I say, optics on what you're doing, and you can't manage it. You don't know what's stopped you from getting results. Because here's the truth, like, you start a program, you're gonna get results. Like, you can start walking around your block if you haven't worked out in 3 years, 4 years, whatever, or longer. You could walk around your block for 3 days a week and you'll probably drop 5 pounds, right? But if you keep doing that 3 days a week, those 5 pounds won't keep coming off every single week. You have to dial up the intensity, right? You have to walk 5 days a week. And then you have to run 1 day a week and walk 4 days. And then you have to run 4 days a week and walk 1 day, right? So you have to keep changing and switching up that intensity.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say is if you could, you know, that threshold training, which is what we talk about, and so once you hit this marker, right, is to push right above that marker, not too high, right, for injury or anything, but just right above it. Um, so when Adam's talking, you might be like, that sounds so overwhelming, but it's just that constant, that discomfort, but not so much discomfort that it leads to, you know, injury or anything. But it's just that slightly like, I don't want to do that extra rep, right? Or I don't want to walk that little bit faster. This is a little more comfortable. So it's leaving that comfort zone and pushing that just a little bit harder. And I would say that that's often why we hit a plateau with our training. So um, making sure, like, most women, I would say even men, right, as we're aging, that we are being intentional about our strength training. And if you do 2 days a week, so like if a busy mom feels that, like, I don't know when I can get it in, is it okay? How bad do you want it? And how important is it for you in your long term, right? And then saying, well, it doesn't have to be 1 hour. It can be 20 minutes or maybe even less if you're doing, like, you're not doing anything right now. So if you do 15 to 20 minutes of really intentional, like pushing that threshold just slightly, you can get amazing results. So that's a manageable goal that you can fit in. You can fit in 15 minutes twice a week with really like intentional exercise.
Yeah.
Like so like I say, I wasn't doing anything, but I go for a walk and I'm really trying to hit that zone 2 training, right? And I take the whole family and we have no other option, but I'm really intentional and I'm measuring like zone 2, right? And I'm really getting there, and that's my intention. So I think it really goes down to any of these goals, knowing what do you want. I think this will be on any call we ever, or any podcast we ever have, is like the fundamentals is what do you want and what are you willing to do to get there, and then having a plan to get there.
Yeah.
Because if you tell me that I need to get protein in and that's one meal that I need to change, I could do that. And then you're telling me I can have 2 15-minute windows and I might start to get results, I can do that. And so when you break it down in that manner, I believe that you can see drastic results. And then when that starts to plateau or a certain time goes by, what else can I add 5 more minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
No, it's great. It's great. It just comes back to like when people want to get a result, what the first question is like, what are you willing to do to get it, right? Because it's not going to come for free. We got to work. We got to work hard, and that's just the truth about it, right? Nothing is free completely. So just putting in the work, being consistent, showing up for yourself, understanding that it's not easy, but you'll be able to do it, and you can hit your goals.
Yeah, and it's really rewarding.
Absolutely.
Like it's rewarding when I think ultimately, and you teach this a lot, and you talk about it a lot, is that owning what you say you're gonna do, and then living into that. Because when you don't is when you feel bad.
It's the real dopamine, right? Forget your phones. Put your phones down. Put your phones down. You want to get a hit of dopamine, I'm going to tell you how to do it, right? This is dopamine that's going to push you through, right? Put your phones down. Stop scrolling. Stop looking for likes. Or take a piece of paper and a pencil and think for 5 seconds of one thing that you want, that you really want to go after and you really want to get, and write that thing down on the paper and commit to getting that thing and do nothing else but execute on getting that thing. And when you get it, that's going to be the greatest day of your life. Yeah. Because you're going to follow through with doing what you said you were going to do, right? And if that's losing 20 pounds, don't give yourself any excuses. Don't point the finger at anybody because you don't have time or you don't have this or you don't have that. Like, we get it. We run a business. We have 4 kids, 1 in high school, 2 of them homeschooled, and 1 and a 1-year-old running around screaming at the leg all day long, right? But we still figure it out. And like she said, we take all the kids, we go outside, we do the walk, we do the run, we show up to the gym. I go first, I work out, she shows up, I take all the kids so she can work out. Like, you figure it out, yeah. And you just don't make excuses for why you can't have the thing that you want. Because if you make an excuse, then you won't have the thing, yeah. Right? Whatever it is.
It's kind of like a non-negotiable. It's what are you not willing to tolerate and what's non-negotiable. And it might sound harsh, but it's not, because it's for my children, right? It's me honoring my body. It's for my family, and it's honoring to God ultimately, I believe. So it's just a lot of times it's comfortable and it's really
familiar.
It's familiar, and it's also really uncomfortable to create all this havoc to figure it out. It feels like, right? Feels like a disruption, but is that disruption worth it? I would say yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said there, because that's the key, right? Staying the same is comfortable, and changing is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The change is uncomfortable, and that's why most people, we've been talking about this for the last couple of days, but thermostats, right? We have these thermostats. What happens when your freaking AC doesn't work? The thermostat, or the temperature goes up, right? And it gets hot. What happens when it's hot? It's uncomfortable, right? Even the other way around, like if your AC gets too cold, like it's uncomfortable. You like got to find something to warm yourself up. So either way, it's uncomfortable. And what we do with our lives is we set the thermostat. And our thermostat, whatever it is whatever, right? Like where you are physically right now is your thermostat if you can't change it.
Yeah.
Right? If you're stuck at a place of whatever's weight or body fat percentage or whatever, then that's your thermostat. And the way that you're going to change that is by getting uncomfortable. And how you get uncomfortable is surrounding yourself with other people that are doing things that make you uncomfortable so you level up to their level.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's why community is really powerful. But also, that's why coaching, and we obviously are coaches and have dedicated our life, but it's because we know, and you've had coaches, how many coaches have you had, right? And the power of being around someone that can see your blind spot, which we talk about, and just give you that little tip or that little thing to push you. So yeah.
Yeah.
So we hope this was powerful, and we hope that you're able to take one small habit and implement it, and then stay committed to it, even when you don't get the result, right? Even when you don't drop, because you said that, even when you don't drop the 20 pounds, but then you're able to look at it again and then make a change, but not go back to what you're doing, continue to make that progress forward to that goal. And
CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. All right, constantly make those small shifts, micro changes over the long term is going to make you a completely different person. And just because you ate broccoli at your lunchtime doesn't mean that you're going to lose 20 pounds. But it does mean that you committed to doing something healthier. And if you keep on making those small commitments to yourself, eventually that will create the change that you're looking for. So keep on winning out there. We're excited for you. Drop us some questions so that we can shoot episodes that are going to be directly related to the things that you guys want to hear about. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
bye.